The monster Inoue gets his TKO victory over TJ Doheny, and I think it was a good performance. I'm not gonna lie. I saw some, I got the box rec pulled up right now, and Inoue got the victory over TJ Doheny in round 7. And it was a good fight. I feel like, we saw some stuff from Doheny that posed some issues. He's a little bit awkward. He threw those feints. He kind of had that little shoulder roll that's difficult for any offensive fighter to kind of penetrate. But Inoue's good. We saw the body attack. We saw his counter punching ability. We saw him, waiting to kind of feel out TJ Doheny and kind of see his rhythm. And once he was able to do that, we saw Inoue pick it up, in the later rounds of the fight, as long as it did last. And Inoue, I'm curious what you guys think, so let me know in the comments if you guys think that Inoue has kind of pushed himself into that pound for pound #1 spot, because I always feel like it was Usyk, it was Terence Crawford, and then it was Inoue as well. Those guys were the top 3, and I think they still are the top 3, but where do we really put them around and order them? I always, no offense to Usyk, I know he's a cruiserweight, he deserves to be on the pound for pound list. I personally don't often put these heavyweight fighters on the pound for pound list, just because it's just like, I always think about making weight. I think making weight, anybody who knows the sport of boxing knows that might be more than 50% of the actual fight is making weight. That's a big part of your responsibility as a boxer. And I just think the fact that heavyweights, I'm not saying it's their fault, because at the end of the day they can't control the fact that they're huge human beings, huge fighters, but it also doesn't take away from the fact that these guys have to make weight. And I always say that the lower weight classes, they showcase a more elite skill set than that of the higher weight classes. And I think that's just always gonna be the way it is. Human beings that big, the same way centers aren't going to be as skilled as a point guard in the sport of basketball. I feel the same way about boxing. I think that's a parallel situation where the smaller fighters, guys like Inoue, guys like Tank Davis, Terence Crawford, those guys, despite their size, being smaller fighters, they're still so much more talented than those of the the cruiserweight champions of the world, the heavyweight champions. I just think of it as like, if you were to grow Inoue or Terence Crawford into a heavyweight, they're beating Usyk, they're beating Fury, they're stopping these guys easily. That's just the way my brain works when it comes to the pound for pound ranking. So for me, I can't have Usyk at #1 pound for pound. That's just me, but I know he got that win over Fury. They're gonna run it back. We'll see what happens in that fight, but regardless, I don't have him. I have him in the top 3, but he had to be my #3. For me, Terence Crawford is still my #1 pound for pound, and I know people are gonna get mad at that because Terence Crawford isn't as active as Inoue, but Terence Crawford's opposition has been a lot more difficult. Terence Crawford fought Errol Spence, the former 1A and 1B pound for pound fighters in the world. People just discredit that because he was able to do it so easily, and they jumped on Terence Crawford for a not so great performance against Israel Madrimov. Still got the job done regardless, but you're only as good as your opposition, in my opinion. And Inoue fighting Neri and then TJ Doheny, it's they're active, and Inoue more importantly is staying active, and you love to see that from a pound for pound fighter and one of the better fighters in the sport right now. But at the end of the day, it's not the same opposition as Terence Crawford's fighting. You fight Errol Spence, you fight Israel Madrimov. I just think that it's quality over quantity in this particular scenario where Inoue is still doing his thing. I'm not saying he's far off from Terence Crawford in my list. They could be interchangeable. It wouldn't matter to me. But for me, in this particular matchup between Inoue and Terence Crawford, where we're just putting them on side by side for the pound for pound rankings, these guys aren't going to fight. We got to relax with all this. Terence Crawford fight Tank Davis fight Inoue. Like, we got to get that out of the way. But just from a hypothetical and more so pound for pound face off, I just think that you're only as good as your opposition. And like I said, and even though Inoue's getting these jobs done, like I said, his opposition, you got Nonito Donaire, Paul Butler, Stephen Fulton, Marlon Tapales, Louis Neri. These are all great wins, but at the same time, it's like Stephen Fulton is still that biggest name that pops up, and he deserves credit, credit for that. I just still think that, you know, Crawford is still #1 pound for pound for me. That's just my thought on it. He's moving up in weight. Not that Inoue won't do the same and accomplish a lot at higher weight classes. I'm not saying that. I just think right now in this moment, and maybe my mind will change tomorrow, I don't have Inoue as my #1. I think he's a close, you know, he could be there. I'm not mad at anybody who has him as their #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. But, you know, for me, just because you're staying active, like Luis Neri and TJ Doheny, a guy that already has 3 losses. Come on, like, Terrence Crawford fought Spence and he fought Madrimov. That tells a lot. Just because they're spaced out fights doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, he's accomplished, you know, beating the top guy in his division. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why don't you have Canelo there? You know, there's Benavidez. Like, it's just, I don't know if anybody really has Canelo on their pound for pound list right now like that, because we all want to see certain fights. And I think that if it's not Benavidez, I've been saying it should be Terrence Crawford. And you know, who am I to say that Canelo is ducking Benavidez, this and that? But, like, if it's really easy work, if you really want to make that big fight happen, why are you fighting Berlanga? You know, after Berlanga, it should be Benavidez. If it's not Benavidez, fight Terrence Crawford. You guys know I have my critiques on Terrence Crawford as well. I think it's a big risk fight for him to be going up in weight and fighting a guy like Canelo, but he's willing to do it. You know, you don't hear Inoue, you know, calling out a 30-pounder or a 35-pounder, but you hear Terrence Crawford fighting at 54 and willing to go up to 68. Like, that's some courage, in my opinion. You know, that helps your pound for pound ranking. That confidence. You know, Inoue doesn't talk about going up that much. You know, I'm sure he's going to take it day by day, as he should, and I don't think he should be taking any risk that he thinks he can't handle. But for Terrence Crawford to be saying, hey man, I want to go to 68, I'll fight Canelo at 68, he doesn't even have to come down to 60, I'll meet him up there. That's some confidence from Terrence Crawford, and I think a lot of people overlook that. They see it as disrespectful for Terrence Crawford to be calling out Canelo Alvarez. Like, what do you want him to do? He's already beaten the top 147 pounder. You guys want him to fight Boots? All right, so he shouldn't make a lot of money for a high-risk fight. Why not fight Canelo and at least get a bang for your buck when you're taking all this risk? Why not get the reward for it and fight a guy like Canelo? Fight the cash cow. Why am I going to fight Boots? For me, Terrence Crawford's decision-making and his thought process and why he wants to fight Canelo and not Boots, that makes all the sense in the world to me. Why would you fight Boots and make not even half the money that you're going to make fighting Canelo Alvarez? Fight the cash cow, go for it. And then after that, you could call it a career and ride off into the sunset and enjoy the fruit of your labor. I think that's what Terrence Crawford wants to do, and I think that's the opportunity that, you know, Canelo has to give Terrence Crawford. And if it's not Benavidez for Canelo, I say why not make that fight? But nonetheless, let me know in the comments who you guys have top 3 pound for pound rankings. I got Usyk #3, Inoue still #2, and I got Terrence Crawford at the #1 spot. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next Nabs boxing video. Peace. That's going to do it for another Nabs Fight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.